One of the things I was interested in was having a podcast, and my content was created by asking the community to send me their questions. Now, there are a lot of apps available where you can record right on your phone and upload to your podcast page. That's what I did at the very beginning. You don't need fancy audio equipment. You don't need, the high-end things. I wouldn't recommend that. But by starting a podcast, there's so many different ways that you can go. You could have, say in Santa Fe, your business was restaurants. You're a restaurant owner. What you could do is you could actually invite other people in the industry to come on your show, and that would help you cross-pollinate. They'd get to know about you. You'd get to know about them. Again, it's part of that giving where you're not asking the guests for anything, but you let them talk about themselves. And so they have their audience, you have your audience, and this is how you start building the podcast. And at this point, I've got a very large monthly download. You can get analytics from it and a very high retention rate where people want to listen to the entire podcast. So I've had some interesting guests on. I've done a lot of Q&A podcasts. And then you can also look to be on other people's podcasts as well. So there's a lot of different advantages to having a podcast because it's that audio channel. And it's another funnel for you to start to get followers. One of the things I do with my podcasts is sometimes they're very short. They're 5 minutes or they're 3 minutes. And I say, hey, everybody, it's Dr. Sam and the iClarity podcast. And, I have this great idea, blah, 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 and I'll talk about it for a few minutes. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time. So I'm posting maybe 4 to 6 podcasts a week. And also another thing that you can do is you can take excerpts from the entire podcast and you can post those on your social media site. So I do that all the time. I just did an interview with a doctor, and we took the podcast and we split it up into maybe 30-second sound bites, and we posted those on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and it doubled the amount of people who actually ended up downloading the entire podcast. So there are different techniques that you can use. You can even record a pre-recorded intro and an outtake at the very end. Something like, if you have questions, you can text me or you can send me an email, or here's my upcoming online workshop. So there are ways, again, that you can use the podcast, the audio channel, as a simple, free way to start building your community. Another thing you can do is you can go on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and you can do a live show, Q&A. And this is amazing. When you start doing this on a regular basis, you will get interactions with other people, and they will get to know you. And this is another great way to develop your brand. Looks like there's Q&A. We've got a few questions, so let me start with this one. I'm intrigued by the idea of 4 to 8 content pieces per day, but can't imagine how to do that and still have time to do my other work. How do you budget time for that? Well, I would start off with maybe pick one of the social media sites that you're most attracted to. You maybe can look at where you think most of your customers are and maybe post 1 a day or 2 a day. I think it's going to take some time management organization. I always say, if you're really passionate in what you're doing, you will find the time to post. Maybe, again, you can get one of these scheduling content programs, and you can take all of your pieces and put it in the scheduling program, and you can do it that way. But pick one of the social media sites that you like and just maybe post 1 a day. Or if you can do 2 a day. and see how that goes for a while. And then, you might then at that point, if you've got the budget, maybe you hire somebody to help you in the posting. I mean, at this point, I do have employees that are doing my editing and posting, but I'm making enough money now that I can do that. When I started out, I was doing everything and I was full time in my practice, but I knew that this was the ticket for me to be able to create a brand, and it would create a legacy for me that I could then maybe let go of some of the other things that I didn't like doing because I so enjoyed the creative process. So start slow and just see what happens. All right, can you recommend who to find someone to help with Google and updating a blog or blog? Okay, so there are two sources that I use, that I tap to get great talent. The first is Craigslist. The second is a platform called Upwork. And Upwork is a platform where there are a lot of freelance people. And you can actually create a post on Upwork. It won't cost you anything. And I have gotten some of my best talent. I got my bookkeeper, I got my website people that are managing my website, my web store manager, my person who organizes my posts. So Upwork.com would be a great place for you to look if you can't find anybody on Craigslist. But my goodness, there's so many writers out there. Maybe you can find somebody at the community college, and that way you won't have to pay as much. Maybe a student, somebody who's a good writer. So there are ways that you can figure this out. Writing is hard for me, and one of the things I've started to use now is an artificial intelligence platform where I actually tell the artificial intelligence, this is what I'm interested in. Tell me about this process in my industry, and they will come back with some outline, and it's pretty good. And so then I just fill in the pieces and make it more personal. Artificial intelligence is definitely increasing and impinging on our lives, whether we like it or not. But that's a way that sometimes if I need to do a quick blog, I'll do it that way. But there are a lot of avenues there. Try those, and that should help you. Okay, next question. My business is focused on city management and municipal government. I have been writing monthly newsletters on LinkedIn, and in 1 year have 315 subscribers. Some mayors and city managers are on LinkedIn. However, city councilors tend to be on Twitter, and I'm hesitant to join. What's your experience with Twitter? Can I direct people on Twitter to my website where I can repost my 25 articles from LinkedIn? Well, Elon Musk is really wreaking havoc with Twitter right now. And there's all kinds of things going on with Twitter that I can really understand, where a lot of people have mixed feelings about it. I post every day on Twitter. I probably do 5 to 7 posts on Twitter. You can interact with people. It's a great way to have conversations with people in your industry. You could actually spend time looking up, say in your situation, mayors and city managers who are on Twitter, and you could engage with them. And then maybe at that point, once you engage with them, if there's some communication back and forth, you can definitely direct them away from Twitter towards your website. But I would say this, that the more you diversify your content, the more followers you're going to get. And, the same goes with LinkedIn, where if you can interact with people by having conversations with them, communications with them, this is another way that I have developed my LinkedIn following. It takes time, but I wouldn't give up on Twitter. I think that, again, you can use it for the highest good for yourself, and you can direct people away from it so that you then put them into an environment where you're more in control and they're going to be more interested in what you're writing about. All right, next question. Don't podcasts require paying for service and editing ability? Well, the answer to that is it depends on the service. It depends on how many podcasts you are posting. But if you start at the very beginning, you can get the free part of the service. Now, in my case, because I'm posting so much at this point, I pay about $40 a month. Okay, it's not a lot, but that's what I pay. And editing, again, you could get on GarageBand and you could have that audio file on GarageBand. I actually hired somebody to help me learn how to cut, where I said or or, if there was, space in there that I didn't like. And within 5 minutes, I could edit on GarageBand. I uploaded it to Dropbox. I now had a link that I could then send it off to my podcast service. So there are ways to do it. Maybe you find somebody that you hire just maybe 1 or 2 times to show you how to do it. But it's so easy to do off your phone if you look at apps where you can do the podcast. And, again, you don't have to overproduce or over edit it. Okay, don't worry about that. I know somebody who's an actress who she spent $1,000 on one video. And I said, what are you doing? She says, well, it has to be perfect. I need to get the script. I need direction. I need production. That's the wrong way to go in my view. In my posting, the more raw it is, actually the more views I get because I'm authentic. I'm not making some stuff up where I'm, creating something that's not who I am. So in your audio podcast, we just want to hear what you have to say. And you can figure out a way to use a service at the beginning where you don't have to pay for it or it's a minimal fee. All right, next question. Do you take videos with your phone without a microphone? Wondering whether the quality is acceptable for Instagram and YouTube. Most definitely. So this video that went viral on TikTok, 300,000 views, I had no microphone. My microphone was my phone. I basically pressed play. I put the camera in front of my face. I had a great background of the snow, and the microphone I used was the phone's microphone. I put it up on TikTok, and there you go. So the quality will be acceptable. Again, if it's really windy or it's really loud, you might consider again, okay, I don't want a lot of sirens going on in the background. Now, I will say at this point in my sophistication, I do have wireless microphones. Right now, I'm simulcasting this and I'm recording this on my phone, and I have a wireless microphone that I use that's excellent. And I have other microphones also as well. But I've been at this 6 years. I'm making money. I can do it. I want to invest back into my business. But the short answer is just start recording. Don't worry about it. You can play it back. If you can hear it, it's going to work fine for your social media posting. Okay, how do you set up a podcast page? Do you have to pay a service? What are the podcast page options? Well, again, depending on how many podcasts you do, the answer to that is you could actually have the podcast set up in a way where you don't have to pay for service. It kind of just depends on how many podcasts you're going to do. Again, if you don't know how to do this, you can go to Google, and Google will show you how to set up a podcast page, and you could just do Apple or Spotify or Amazon. It's so easy. And once you have, the podcast name and you have maybe a picture of yourself, it's really easy to upload. There's nothing to it. So I would go on Google and figure out, okay, how do I set up a podcast page? And then you can look at the different options. Again, start slow. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but just start putting the podcast out. And then you could put the link, say on Facebook, and say, hey, here's my podcast, or on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. And that's a way you can start getting traffic to people to listen to your podcast. Okay, I have an Android phone. Does the Apple Podcast site work for Android phones? I don't know that answer, but I'm sure that Dr. Google could help you with that. Again, my feeling is because so many people have Android phones, I think that the podcast services will work based on the app you're using to record the podcast. If you have kind of like a voice memo or some kind of an audio recording app, I think it's very universal at this point because so many people are doing podcasts. Do you use your email list to make product offerings, or is that only social media itself? No, I actually use my email list to make my product offerings. And the way I do it is I create a newsletter where part of it is education, part of it is I'm, uploading like my blogs or my latest videos, maybe that relate to the product. And then I send that out as an email blast and I just watch the sales come in. It's amazing. It works so well. Now you have to be careful that you don't send too many emails out. And sometimes I'll send a newsletter out where I'm not selling any products, where I'm just educating people. And I use two newsletter services. One is MailChimp, and the other is one called Klaviyo. You might not have heard of it. Klaviyo is a little more sophisticated. It's allowing me to receive text messages for Q&A. It also gives me a little more analytics, and it's expensive. Both of those probably run about $500 a month for each, but the return on investment on that is probably 50x. So when I do an email, I know that I'm going to make several thousands of dollars during a weekend sale. And I'll, give a discount, but even with the discount, because of the volume, I'm making really good money from that. How do you handle hostile responses online? I rarely get this on my business page, but that is a contained group so far. I do encounter it in bigger groups. Okay, I get this a lot. So there are always people, what they do is, I think about their life must be really miserable for them to take the time to be judgmental of me. Okay, and so I definitely have compassion for them. And either I might engage them and give them an answer if they're, asking a legitimate question. Otherwise, I just delete and block them. And the social media sites now at this point are very, very protective of people. And it's very easy for you to delete and block those people. Now, if you're in a group situation, you need to talk to the facilitator and let them know what's going on, because I know in my groups, usually the people that are in my groups, they love me. They're not going to badmouth me. I've never had that happen. But if you're in, say, a mixed group, if that's going on, sometimes I just say, I don't want to be part of the group. But you, as the influencer, have the ability to block anybody, and you should not take any grief from anybody. You just delete them, block them, don't engage them, and move on. That's the best thing to do in my experience. Okay, another question. Using your method when product is a technology licensing opportunity. For example, we are finalizing a technology and are in need of funding. So this is an interesting thing, because in 2018, I actually got a financial partner. I needed some capital because we were going to do some products. And it was a nightmare for me because I lost leverage in the brand. And so we ended up dissolving our partnership. But it's a very interesting thing to start to want to get funding, and then what is the relationship? And you need to be very careful that you're keeping control of the brand because you don't want to lose leverage. Like, what are the strings attached? Because if you get involved in a partnership and somebody is giving you money, they're going to want results. They're going to want, probably some of the profit. And so you have to be very clear if you're going to go that route. Now, in technology, you do need a lot of money. There's no question about it. And this is where perhaps your SCORE mentors can direct you in places where you might be able to get funding, but you can get it in a way where you don't lose control or leverage of the brand, of what the product you're trying to put out. It's not an easy road, but you can do it, and sometimes the upside is really amazing. So that's how I would answer that. If I'm not comfortable with video content, what are some of the options beyond blogging that utilize written word content? Well, one of the things that you could do is you could either speak into your phone or talk into your phone, and you can get a transcript of what you have said, and you can edit it, and you can use that as your written blog. And I really get it. A lot of people that I work with, they don't want to do video. It's hard. And they even don't want to do audio. They're shy. So there are ways that you can get these programs where you can actually get a transcript and then you can post it that way. One of them that I use is called otter.ai. That's a good one for transcription. And so that way you can stay away from the video and the audio, and you can just do your blogs that way. If you want to dive into artificial intelligence, you can actually go on some free artificial intelligence websites, and you can say, okay, tell me how to bake a cake. And the AI will come up with a written narrative, which then, if that's your interest or that's your brand, you could take that AI information and then you could make it your own. So that would be another way that you could get ideas for your blogs. Another question. You mentioned programs for scheduling your social media postings. What would I recommend? Will they allow you to post across multiple platforms? So second question first, definitely. They will allow you to post across multiple platforms. I haven't used them in about 3 years, so the one that I used, I'm not sure I would recommend for you. Again, that's something that I would Google, and then they have great customer service, so you could, inquire what would be the best social media scheduling program for you based on what platforms you're using, when you want to post, what are the duration of the post, and things like that. So that's readily available on Google, and the support team there will be able to help you figure out what's the best way to go. You're very welcome. Your audience is 55 plus. What platforms do you recommend? All of them. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Now, some people will say TikTok is just for kids. I got to tell you, I am so surprised with the TikTok response that I'm getting. There are people that are 55 and over that are now on TikTok. Twitter is another one as well. So I would do all of them. And I would create a podcast as well and target those 55 plus. Is it mostly women? Is it mostly men? What geographical location are they living in? Do you want to start reaching people on an international level? I would say yes. So learn your audience, learn who's interested. In my audience, it's about 70% women, 30% men. And again, some of my biggest followers are in Australia, Germany, India, the UK. And so it's very surprising to me, but you can get analytics from that, and then you can target your advertising based on those locations and the socioeconomics and the type of person listening and watching. Next question, does your wireless microphone connect to your cell phone? Yes, and the type of wireless is called the Rode, R-O-D-E. I love it. I actually did an interview in a restaurant that was super loud, and it was amazing how that microphone worked on my phone. The person was videoing me, and the other thing is, I'll hike in the mountains, and I'll put my tripod out, and I'll be, say, 75 feet away, and I'll be walking towards my phone, and that microphone is great. So it's called the Rode wireless microphone. I highly recommend it. It's maybe $300 or $400. It's great. From your experience, what should you not do in social media marketing or via podcasts? Talk about yourself and brag and make everything about you. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. I would make it about how can I serve and create value for my audience? How can I educate? How can I document and create stories that will inspire them to want to come back for more? And I wouldn't ask them for anything at the very beginning. You're dating them. You're just getting to know them. And they may be shy. So you have to prove yourself. And the way to do that is by offering really good value. And that kept my community coming back. They tell other people, wow, this guy is like, he's giving us really good information. That's how you do it. Okay, next question. I'm concerned about mixing my personal and professional life. If I did a video, my feeling is that I would need to be dressed in formal attire. That does not fit with sharing a daily story during my real life. Well, look, as long as you're authentic and you do what feels comfortable to you. One of the things that when I do personal posting, I get to control what I am talking about. So for example, my family is off limits. There is no social media that includes my family. That's private. Some other things that I'm doing are also private. But there's some things that I'm really excited about. It might be activities, it might be interests. You get to choose. And I got to tell you, when you mix the personal with the professional, you're going to get a wider audience of people who are then maybe interested in your professional life. But you get to choose that. And in terms of dressing formally, well, look, I'm a doctor. And all of my posts, I'm not wearing a white coat. Okay? Because that's not who I am. I gave up that white coat many years ago. In fact, I found a picture of myself in my white coat when I was doing my internships, and I'm actually giving a lecture to some of the residents, and I have these very funny glasses on, and I have a beard, and it was kind of funny. People loved that. So I don't use a white coat. I don't wear a tie. I'm out there, and when I'm hiking, Dr. Sam, and I'm on my morning walk, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I'm wearing a baseball hat. So the thing is that you decide what you're comfortable with and just be authentic with yourself. The more authentic you can be, the better your brand is going to go. That's how I would say it. All right, next question. Do you have an easy video editing tool recommendation? Well, if you're going to do it on your computer, I would probably do iMovie. And if you're going to do it on your phone, if you have an iPhone, you can do iMovie right on your phone. So a lot of times when I'm doing a video, if I'm in a rush, I'll just take the video on my iPhone and I'll just do the iMovie editing on it and ready to go. So you don't have to get fancy software. I mean, iMovie's going to come, or if you're, on a PC, you'd have to figure out what is the editing software. But I don't do a lot of editing. I do some. For example, with TikTok, a lot of times the rhythm of TikTok, I'll share an idea, I'll stop the camera. I'll share another idea, stop the camera. I'll share another idea and stop the camera. And then I'll weave those three separate videos together in a very fast way. So again, if you go on my TikTok site, and you can look at one of my last videos, again, this one that went viral, you can see that the ideas that I give, boom, boom, boom. So that's TikTok. On my podcast, it's a lot slower. You know, people need time to digest, so I'm speaking more slowly. So again, you'll know based on the social media site what part of you you're going to bring. But don't worry about that it's got to look perfect or sound perfect. Just start posting. Okay, my last thing I think I'm going to say is that you can do what I'm doing. That because of the internet today, this is a great time to start developing brand. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And be patient financially, be patient emotionally. And if you can do those things and you give, you will then have the leverage to be able to present your services or products in a way where you now have a relationship with your community. They're going to go for it. All right, everybody, I think that's it. I'm going to sign off.